Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers. In this video, we are talking about London Marathon. So this is part of our podcast. So if you're going to listen to the podcast, maybe don't watch this video because it's exactly the same, apart from a little bit extra where we talk about some of our own training. But in this video, we are going to be talking about hints and tips and things that we've learnt from doing the London Marathon. So all of us on the video have done London Marathon at least 3 times, and we have quite a bit of experience when it comes to every aspect of it, from going to the expo to getting to the start line to the race itself and what the finish line is like. So if you're doing London Marathon this year, 2024, or even in future years, you might still find this video useful. We're going to dive in and try and hopefully give you some advice to make this year's London Marathon go a little bit more smoothly. Hope you find it useful. Okay guys, London Marathon tips and advice. We've all done London quite a few times cumulatively between us. Yeah. So in this video, we're going to be talking through basically everything to do with the race, and hopefully giving some advice to the listeners, I think it's listeners or viewers. Hopefully give some advice to people who are doing London Marathon this year, or maybe next year if they listen to this podcast far later than we made it. So get my head around what we're doing at the moment.
We're holding up that evergreen content. I hope you're listening. This is 2045. Yeah. Some of the tips won't be relevant. The world's underwater.
Most of it's probably going to be the same. All right. Well, I've got a list of things here to talk through, and the first one of those is the Expo. Whoa. So, who wants to pick up the Expo? What is the London Marathon Expo like, and what do you need to know about it?
Kieran loves the Expo. Talk about the Expo.
I love an expo. It's in the middle of nowhere. Let's start with that. It's miles from anywhere, and you have to get on a kind of toy train, the DLR, to get there. It's kind of it's kind of way out for me anyway. I live in West London, so it's like I might as well go into a different country. It's easier to get to Valencia for their expo.
I live in East London, and it is faster door to door to the Valencia Marathon Expo than the XL Centre in East London.
And so huge exhibition centre out on the DLR. And it's in, it's like a big, old, huge kind of cavernous space. And it's big, as the expos go. The London Marathon one is probably one of the biggest that I've been to out of all of the 50-odd marathons that I've done. Yeah. And if I have one piece of advice for anyone, it's like you could choose the different days. If you can go on a Thursday and you want it to be nice and quiet and you want to get through all the queues really quickly, go on the Thursday. Friday will be busier. Saturday will be mayhem. If you like it to be mayhem, go on the Saturday. That's when there'll be the most bars and there'll be the most craziness and there'll be all the things going on. But I think if you go on the Thursday, every time I've done it, it's quite quick. It's good fun. There is lots of stuff there if you want to get involved in buying last minute shoes and gels and all of that kind of stuff. And there tends to be, I think, of all the expos I've been through, there tends to be more sort of fun, interactive stuff, and you can meet more people. And it's one of the livelier expos that I've been to.
And for anyone listening or watching this, the expos, this is where you've got to go to pick up your bib, essentially, and some of the bits and pieces. And you've got to take your ID with you and information about, is that it? You just need your ID?
You need ID.
Yes, that was my thing to remember, because I've never remembered ID. And one year I had to go all the way home and go all the way back. So take ID.
That's it. Well worth remembering that before you get all the way there.
I would say it is a substantial amount of walking, because the XL is huge. And another reason not to go on Saturday is, it would be equivalent of a shakeout run walking around the XL and you have to go a certain way because they want you to go past pretty much certain, attractions like whoever's the main sponsor and that kind of thing. So I like to go in Thursday.
The problem a lot of people have with the Expo is that if you are, because we all live, or I did live in London, that you actually, it's relatively easy to get there on an evening. But people who are travelling over and just for the weekend, it's quite expensive to stay in London over the weekend. So you might have to go to the Expo.
Which is why it's the busiest day, of course. But, it's certainly, again, probably go early if you can. But it is. I don't know. They can't. I suppose all major marathons don't mail the numbers out, do they? Really? But it's a nice thing to go to, but it is a bit of an extra hassle in an already busy week.
You basically get, every time I've been to it, and I think this is the same with pretty much every expo, apart from the little ones we've been to, like Bilbao Expo, where It's just a room.
It's just us.
They basically design it. It's massive, and they basically design it so you zigzag through all of the places they want you to, the shops basically that they want you to look at the start. And it's New Balance, isn't it? They do
this year. Yeah. They've got a massive thing you have to go through.
So you'll be winding through the New Balance shops, which is very tempting because you're excited about doing the marathon, and you see all the London Marathon kit, and you think, "Oh, I'll pick up a hat and a jacket." So just be aware of that because it can get a little bit easy to fill your bag with stuff and want to buy everything.
There's a couple other things. I think one of the differences that you get on London as well, they do have stages and they have people giving, if you're a first timer, there is a main stage where they'll talk you through tips and stuff. And that is quite useful actually, if you've never done it before, for that kind of last minute kind of advice. Some of it don't listen to, you want to listen to some of it, don't listen to too much. There's not much that you can change at that point. The other thing is they often have the Kipchoge Travelator thing where it tries to get you to run at the fastest pace. Maybe I don't know which one what they'll do.
It must be the world record. It's got to be Kelvin Kipton's pace now. Yeah.
Don't go on that. Go on that.
Certainly don't go in jeans. Yeah.
People fall over, get injured. You've done all that training. You don't need to prove that right there and then. Save that for another day when you're not actually racing.
Yeah, it's fast. I wouldn't go with that. I would say on the stage as well, if the advice isn't great, just maybe take some headphones and listen to this podcast again. That would be a good way to walk.
That's a good idea. Yeah. The other bit of advice I'd give for the expo is I see a lot of people buying new running shoes and stuff at the expo, and because you've just bought new running shoes, you're very excited about wearing them. And I know people that have bought them and used them for the marathon the next day. That's not a good idea either, because if you're not used to wearing the shoes, it's a big risk on marathon day. Same with the kit as well. If you're going to buy a load of running kit from there and really want to wear it on the marathon day, it's a risky decision to make if you've never worn it before.
But it is exciting, right?
There's a nice buzz to it.
You walk through and they play. Is it the Chariots of Fire? What they're playing when you walk through?
Yeah, I think it is.
It's always the same song. It's exciting. You get your number. You can take some cool Instagram pics. You can. It's a fun.
Try some freebies.
Yeah, fun hour, I guess. I wouldn't spend more than an hour there.
No. So there is a tip. If you have more than one number, which is a few, I think the Abbott, when they did the Abbott things there, and if you're in championship, you get more than one number, they often do not know that when they're giving you your number, and you have to say, I need a second number, because obviously they're used to handing out one number. So if you're doing like the world age group thing, I think there was the same kind of thing. It's worth, otherwise you walk away with one number and you have to go around again to get your second one. I've done that.
Okay, next one is morning of the race. So getting to the start line and the event village itself. So I lived in London, so it was never really that hard for me to get to the start line from where I live. But it gets really, really busy, and it's worth knowing that a lot of the transport is absolutely rammed on the morning of the race.
We stand a lot on trains and stuff. It's
standing a lot on trains, and people are getting up really, really early, so they're busy from like the early hours of the day.
Especially if you've got like a later start time, people will have been going all day, so it's chaotic. Plan your route, and also you will. I don't know if this happens to you guys, but when there's that many people, you start to lose cellular signal and 4G and stuff like that, and suddenly you don't. You got to plan your route in advance, basically.
And leave like
but it is free, isn't it?
Hour, yes.
Flash your number. It's free.
Yeah, I think it is. Although last year I was told it wasn't, but it is normally. It is free.
Yeah, it is definitely. But I've been charged before when they just don't do it.
They just don't know.
Yeah.
The other flip side to all of that as well is it's mad busy, but on the trains again, like you're crammed in. There's a good energy to it. I mean, there's a nervous energy, but you do meet a lot of runners, and there's good chat, and there's a good sort of camaraderie that you find as you're sort of traveling down from wherever it is that you're traveling down. I think I'm always like I'm a really kind of early to the airport kind of person. And I always get there way early, and then sometimes, depending on which start, because there's 3 different starts, there's some of the cafes, if you get in early, actually you can get a seat and just be in the warm for a little bit before you walk up to the main start. And in some of those, some years you can find, and actually there's toilets, and not everyone does it. So if you're early enough, you can take shelter, and it's just a bit more comfortable. Can kind of get your heart rate down and relax a bit before you go up and do what you got to do at the start.
Well, that is a very smart move. So I do this at every race, but if you're walking to a big race and you spot an opportunity to go to the toilet that doesn't look like it's difficult, take it.
Always.
Because when you get to the start, when you get to that event village, you could be queuing for a very long time.
And go. First thing you get to the event village, just go. Don't think I'll sort a couple of bits out first.
Yeah. So if you see a toilet and you're not sure if you want to go and try it anyway, because you might not get the opportunity later.
Especially if you're a woman, because the toilet queues are double the men's.
Yeah.
The men I feel like that's a life tip.
Yeah.
I do that. I now do that all the time.
Just getting old to Kieran. I'll tell you also, the other thing is it's a longer walk from the stations than you might think. And so you want to take that slowly. Last you want to do is running that bit to get to the start line for your wave. So give it plenty of time. And also, if you're affiliated with the club at all around the southeast, actually even further afield, and maybe you don't spend that much time talking to the club, you maybe aren't aware of stuff, they often have coaches to London Marathon. I always get a coach with my club to London Marathon. I wasn't aware of it for a year or so because I was just racing and didn't really look at the groups. It's worth asking around, because if you can sit on a coach with your club mates for a nominal fee, it's quite an easy drive to Greenwich at that time, and all the roads are empty. So, and you get dropped very close to, I get dropped very close to the blue start, which is, for some people that's great, and it's not that far a walk to the other starts, and it's obviously a lot more relaxing to go and do a coach ride with people rather than trying to work out the trains.
Yeah, I'd also say, as great as the atmosphere is on the trains and everyone's talking, I am someone who I don't want to hear someone telling me their PB and their race strategy and every race I've ever run. I am not in that headspace. I want to just calm down and focus on the race and what I'm going to do. So I think I put my headphones in. I probably look like a resting bitch face on the train. Everyone's having a great time. Everyone's chatting to Kieran, and I'm on my own in the corner because I don't want to hear it.
Kieran's long gone. Kieran's in a cafe by now.
Yeah, Kieran's sat in Kieran was there 2 hours before I left.
Kieran's in a cafe. Tom's looking for toilets.
It's cool just be in your own little headspace and listen to this podcast, listen to some music, listen to something, and keep that in right to the start line, and look after your own. Don't get caught talking to the person that wants to tell you about their race. Focus on your own, I'd say, would be my tip.
There's a couple more things as well. The starts are they're quite open. They can be quite windswept, and they're grassy, if I remember rightly. And so definitely do that thing where you take clothes to dress a little bit warmer that you can toss away. Another good thing, if it's been really raining, because I think the grass on some of them is quite long, it can be handy to take carrier bags, tie them around your shoes. I've made a mistake of starting that race with soaking wet feet because you've been tramping across a field essentially to go back to and from the toilet, and that's not a nice thing to start with wet socks. So that's another one. Or get some of those. You can get shoe covers and stuff. So
yeah, 100% on the shoes, especially you've got your amazing race day super shoes, and they're damp and slippery for the first kilometre because you've been walking around in mud. Yeah, not ideal.
Okay, so what can people expect when they're starting the race? They're queuing up, ready to go. They're in the wave. I suppose that's where we should start, really, getting into the right wave.
They'll let you move back, not forward, won't they? So if you've been over, I'd say if you've got injured or you've predicted a start time that you can't achieve, I'd go back and I wouldn't go off in a wave that's too quick, because you'll get swept up and you'll go too fast. I think don't be afraid to go
otherwise
back.
You feel like you're being stampeded, and that's not a nice feeling for the first bit.
Absolute
and throw you out, kind of. Yeah,
I would say it's it can be a bit nightmarish to start. I think normally, if I'm in my start group and going out at the right pace of people, it's okay. But I remember the championship start and the Good for Age start. There's a lot of different times in there. The championship start's all one time, but the Good for Age start, the times could be very different to qualify for that, right? So it's very busy, and then there's the wave comes steaming through behind you, and I think that's a general thing for the first couple of clays. It's it's very easy to get annoyed or run too quick because you're annoyed at people elbowing past you and stuff like that. And when I read it with Jill, I was amazed how brutal it gets around that sub-3 mark. But it levels out quite quickly.
I suppose at that pace, a lot of people don't necessarily get their pacing exactly right for that first bit, so it is all over the place. But you've got the funneling as well, haven't you, in London Marathon, which means that you may get to the point where you're thinking, this is all great, I found my pace, I'm in the right bit, and then suddenly loads of people join you from another side, and you go through the whole thing again. The
joiner out was around 5k, the three routes merge, and it's usually okay. It's by then there's been 5k, people have gone out a bit, but there are loads of people going too quick. It's really important to run your own race at that stage, because it will feel so easy to just go with them.
and it's downhill, isn't it? The first bit's downhill, and it's
Yeah.
really
So
it is
many
very easy
downhills.
to get carried away. And the other thing,
There's
some people have sort of in the past have tried to say, if you've gone from two different start locations and you kind of want to run the race together, we'll meet up when it merges. That won't
Never
happen.
No,
I met
To
one.
find somewhere, that's impossible. It's carnage. So
I think I once managed to meet up with one of my friends from a different start, and that was at mile 22. We eventually caught up with each other at the right kind of pace. The only reason I could see him is because he's massive and he's a swimmer. So there was like 20 runners hiding behind him from the wind, and he was very obvious. But forget those people. Unless you're willing to carry your phone and see what checkpoint they're at. It's you're not going to find those people from a different start. It's very tricky. And the hills in the first half, I think, are the reason why London is a hard race to pace, because you fly down those hills, and you might as well fly down. It's not costing you any extra effort, but when you get to the bottom, it is so hard to decelerate again, because they're early enough in the race that you feel amazing, and you hit the bottom of the hill and you're running 20 seconds quicker a K than you should be, and you go, well, fine, and that's where the race is lost, I think.
And I think it's really hard. I'm never going to be at Nick's end of the course, so I'm in the kind of really crowded bit of the London Marathon course, and it's really hard when you get to mile 3 and you see a pacer from a different start. And it's a psychological thing, isn't it? You think, oh, I'm behind that pacer, so I need to speed up. But actually that pacer from a different start, the people with it are from a different start. They started it. Did you mean it's really hard? I think it's to, like Kieran said, run your own race and don't get swept up in, oh, I'm now behind the 4-hour pacer because they're from a different start. Do you know what I mean? And I think even the pacers at London Marathon, they do an amazing job, but I think I would ignore them personally. I've never run with a race pacer because I think they're always a little bit out, and I don't know what you guys think about it, but I would ignore the pacers and run your own race personally. But if you're going to stick with a pacer, make sure they're wearing the flag from your start, not a different start, because there'll be a different time.
Talk to them as well. Sorry, Nick, I was going to say, just talk to them as well. I would always talk to them and say, how are you going to run this? I want to know whether they're going to be, because some people will try and go out a little bit faster to save a bit of time, or they might be thinking, I'm going to bank a bit of time because I know a bit that's coming up. But if you haven't run like that, or you're not used to it, it can just unsettle you. So try and work out what their plan is going to be.
It's also just so crowded around them that some of them, like you say, can have different strategies for dealing with that, to go out quick to try and get out of the crowd, or to just be slow at the start because it's so crowded. So I ran my first time through London using the pacers, where what I did was, like you talked, Jane, they come from different starts, they're going at different speeds. So I saw a pacer for a sub out that I knew was going faster than the pacer from mine. So I thought, well, if I'm going with them, I'm definitely ahead of the sub 3 from my wave, because they've clearly started before them. And then I was all right there. I was able to move away from them and go a bit quicker. But you've got to be a bit careful with them. It is so crowded around those pacers as well. And it's so intense. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what about that? We talked about the what it's like on the course, but the course itself, what can people expect from it? You've got basically two halves of the marathon, and they're very different types of a race. Not just because of the ground that you're running on and the decline at the start, but for me, the first half is knuckle down, get into it, and just sort of making your way to that Tower Bridge point, because that's, for me, is when the race. Everyone talks about the race, the marathon starting at 25k or whatever. But for London, most of the stuff that you see happens after that distance, because you come through Tower Bridge, and it's almost like, you're in London then, and you start to see all the sights that you expect from the London Marathon.
I mean, I think that first six miles out east it's pretty dull, sort of running through residential streets and stuff. There's not, I mean, you've got Cutty Sark comes before Tower Bridge, and that's a bit of a highlight, but there's not, I find that there's not an awful lot, but
love Cutty Sark. Do it down. Cutty Sark's amazing.
I mean, you sort of spin around that bend, the cameras are up there.
Exactly.
You see a TV camera, and there's a bit of that, but I find the first bit, Tom's right. I think you've just got to, there's not too much excitement there in the first bit, so it's about kind of getting yourself settled into the race and almost kind of just trying to get into a flow in that first bit. There will be some kids already trying to hand you jelly babies at mile 3, and there is crowds kind of already lining the course from the very start.
It's crazy now.
And I would say, if you have anyone that's willing to do the journey, get people at that because I've had people that have seen me at Cutty Sark and been like, God, you looked awful. You look like you're having an awful day. And they've seen me at Tower Bridge and been like, you were flying. So do you mean, I think that's it. I think that first bit is hard because you go down the hill and then you're like, oh, it's happening. And I always find that first bit to Cutty Sark really hard to try and get people to come to like mile 5. Do you mean, and see you right at the start? Because I think you need the support then as much as you need it at mile 20, personally, as someone who has to drag themselves around. I don't know. You guys are quicker than me. Maybe you don't. But I would want people at the beginning.
Yeah, well, there's the logistics, isn't there? If you've got people coming to see you, it's a good way to actually get quite early on, which is probably around the Bermondsey bit, and then move around to 2 other different areas, the finisher course, and maybe, I think, I can't remember how they did it. I think it might be Canary Wharf or something with people who watched me before.
There's a bit where they can see you twice, isn't there? That's Canary Wharf, where they can see you
on the way to and from, on the way to and from, Shadwell. I think
Shadwell, Yes. Shadwell's the best place because you cross over and there's plenty of time because you're doing that out and back. And from Shadwell, there's still enough time to get back to closer to the finish as well. Depending on how fast the runner is, you can do Shadwell on that bit, see them twice, and then still get along to Embankment.
Yeah. Oh, we'll come on to the bits we hate, but that out and back bit is the worst bit, isn't it? Because that's when I see Nick running past me the other way, and I think, God, he's going home. He's going home, and I've got to go around.
I hate that bit.
The other night.
I've been walking a couple of times on that bit, so it's all right. It's good to see that.
When you're coming out on that bit, you see all the people coming back, and you think, oh, great, it's not going to be that. This bit's not going to be that far. No, but when you come back round on it, you're like, that was so far to get round. And it really shows you how.
Well, I think that's what it starts. I think the first half of the London Marathon before Tower Bridge is very easy racing. I find that the easiest bit because it is much like every city marathon. It's residential streets. It's a much better crowd than most places. I haven't done New York, obviously, but that's obviously meant to be amazing. But it's, there's downhills and then lots of level stuff. It's very easy to get into pacing. It's, obviously you're feeling good first. I think that's where it's very easy, I think, as a race, part of the race. The second half is not just because the second half is tricky. I think there's a lot more turns. There's ups and downs under bridges and stuff like that. I think it's a much harder race mentally and physically, the second half of London Marathon, which is why I think it's a hard race to pace because it's hard to negative split London really well. And part of that is Canary Wharf, where obviously you lose GPS, and also it is twisty, it's high buildings, it is still really well supported now on the Isle of Dogs, which it didn't used to be, like around Mudchute. It used to be quite quiet there, but the last couple of years it's been wall-to-wall people still. But it's definitely, I think, slightly sparser than the first half of the race and just less fun. And I do think that 32k mark London is tough, like, because if you can get through the next 5 or 6, 7k, then you're back to Shadwell and then into the real crowds and into, like you say, Tom, like London that you recognise, and it's really exciting. And you're heading for home along the river.
Yeah.
The other thing, I think Tower Bridge is a moment, and it's a huge moment. There's good stats that show that everybody's kind of fastest mile tends to be the mile after Tower Bridge, because you arrive on Tower Bridge, the crowds are incredible. There's this real kind of adrenaline moment. There's often the TV helicopters are up above, and lots of people get kind of fired out of Tower Bridge, really pumped up, and then run a mile that's way quicker than it should be. And then they go into that kind of out and back and then suffer. Yeah. So that's one to watch. You enjoy that moment, but remember you've got a long way to go still then. And that feeling of sort of invincibility that you're going to get as you come across Tower Bridge with the hairs standing up on the back of your neck is, there's a long way to go. That's not going to last. So
it's crazy because it's downhill off the bridge as well, and you're coming to the halfway mark is off once you're off Tower Bridge. So it's like you come off Tower Bridge downhill, like roaring, you're flying. You see the halfway mark in the distance, you cane it to that, and it's like I hit halfway, and you've run, like you say, your quickest mile. And it's now like last year in the rain, it was the mile, even the whole half mile, probably K before Tower Bridge, was almost as loud as Tower Bridge. Everyone's gone to that area and they've just actually camped up near the bridge. It was unbelievable for about a mile and a half, and it's impossible to not speed up a little bit. But it's really hard to then pull it back because you're heading into the out and back of the Isle of Dogs, which is not the same.
Okay, so the finish line, one of the biggest finish lines of any marathon. What can people expect? Why is it such an important finish line for people who do London?
So you see the palace and then you turn and you see the finish line, and it's just honestly the best feeling in the world, isn't it? But the one thing I would say is that bit before the finish line, you go from miles to meters, don't you? And it's like, and then yards, and you go into all these different, and you're like, how far is it?
You go through yards?
You see the palace.
Yeah, they do yards.
It goes like, It's just bonkers because you're like,
Because that is the
yard?
original yard, isn't it? Well, no, it's not there, but it's a different palace. But they moved it for a palace, I suppose. I think is the traditional.
But you
story.
see the palace and you know you're home, and it is great. And then you cross the line, you get your medal, and then you've got the longest walk of your life to get to Horse Guards Parade.
And then a fight for your bag as well.
You've got to fight for your bag, and then you've got to go and hobble to Horse Guards, but you don't care at that point.
Well, that last bit before the finish line is one of the longest sections of the race for me, because when you're coming down the first section at St James's Park, you think, oh, there's all the crowds. I've got to be at the finish line. And you turn around the corner and you go, oh my goodness, I've got to go all the way around the other side now.
When you hit that red tarmac, it's really easy to think, this is it, it's done. That's the point to kick or whatever. You've got anything left, you've got to push it. It is not. You've still got I think it's like even like half a mile around that corner.
Ignore him. Kick. You're nearly there.
It's a good distance, but the crowds on that first bit up to the corner by Buck Palace, where there's the most energy and it's the best. Actually, when you turn the corner and start coming back down the Mall, and it's one of my least favourite things about London. You get into that kind of VIP section, where often there's no one there, and it's actually very quiet. So my word of advice is to really, really enjoy those crowds. The minute you hit the red tarmac, enjoy those crowds. Don't kick yet, but just soak that bit up. So round past Buck Palace, and then that last bit, there won't be that kind of high energy cheering for the last maybe sort of 150 meters.
Close enough though. I think
you're home. You're home.
Exactly. Yeah, I would say that's my wife comes to watch with our kids now. Is on Birdcage Walk, which is the first bit of the red tarmac before you turn the corner, and it's quite a nice place to meet because obviously you're very near the end, so you have to come for the end. The park's all around. It's a good place for kids to play while they wait for the person. No, the kids don't care. I mean, my oldest one now recognised me on the run, but I when you hit the red tarmac, I go for it. Kick, doesn't matter if you die halfway. You're still halfway there, and then it's only like
You've never done London Marathon and been slowly jogging your way to the finish line like I have.
I've walked most of third last London. Last time I went for a real hard run at London, I was walking quite a lot in the second half.
Really?
Yeah, what time did you finish though?
2:33, but that was
not walking that much then. Okay, so you've crossed the finish line. What happens after that? It's most marathons tend to be quite tricky after the finish line. The most big marathons. What advice can we give to people after they cross that finish line to maybe find people or just work out where to go?
Pick a number on Horse Guards Parade. No, a letter. Sorry, there's letters everywhere. Yeah. Alphabets there. Go and stand under that letter. It's the worst cellular, whatever it's called, 4G, 5G signal you'll have in London is Horse Guards Parade on Marathon Day. You're very unlikely to be able to get texts and calls through. So you pick a letter in advance to meet under if you can. Yeah.
And a good tip is pick a letter that people are unlikely to go for, like X or Y or something. Don't go for the obvious ones. I think people should go for their surname. Right. Yeah, but go for one that most people, but maybe won't go to.
And very exposed as well. There.
My advice is that if you're going with family, get them to go and find a place in a restaurant or a bar because they get absolutely rammed. So the time when I did it and my family were there, they waited for me at the letter on the Horse Guards Parade, but I came in at like 4:30 then. So many people had already come in and were coming in at that time. They couldn't find anywhere to find any food. So if you have the opportunity, send them off and say you'll meet them there at some point. Get a reservation somewhere.
Well, it's even easy if you wobble through to Trafalgar Square and meet by under the Lions as well. It's actually not much in terms of the difference, and there'll be less crowds over that way if you want to sort of.
And you're going to be going that way anyway, probably, aren't you? So I would say Horse Guards Parade, if it's a sunny day, is very exposed, and there's not a lot of places to be shaded. So you don't want to be there for too long if you're already feeling quite rough.
Yeah, and there is a changing tent and like a feeding tent. I mean, you can go to Horse Guards Parade and get changed and feed your kid, and do you know what I mean? It is a good place to go if you want somewhere to get changed without being in a pub toilet or something. And there's a medical tent if you need medical help. So head there. And in your
drop bags, put a battery pack with a phone cable. I've made that mistake. Got to the end, phone was completely dead. No way to contact anyone. I had to go and sit in the EE shop on the Strand, charge my phone.
Very popular EE shop after a marathon.
Just like So stick a phone, just in case. You never know.
I'd also say cross finish line, I would go straight. I know you'll feel terrible. You want to sit down for like half an hour, get your bag as quick as you can because the queues get nuts. And also by the time you're then ready to get your bag, your body will have cooled down. Even on a hot day, I've like been shaking, turning blue because you've just run a marathon, your core temperature's all over the shop. You need to have the layers that are in your bag. So I would stagger to get your bag before you really sit down and do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also the organisers, or there's various partners that give you discounts at places around London on after the marathon on the Sunday, but also some of the days afterwards as well. So make sure you check those out because some of them are actually really good. So you get like free drinks and food and stuff.
You get burger, There's Bill's, the classic London restaurant. Bill's does something, and Franco Manca used to. I think it still does.
Yeah.
Franco Manca does a pizza Tuesday, Sunday, Monday.
You could be very lucky to get the ones that are near Trafalgar Square, but you know.
Yeah, you need to. Some of them don't let you book. Some do let you book. There's that one. It's like a deer in the logo that lets you book, but it's a bit further away. I think you can also go to. You can go get your thing from Tracksmith as well. That's a bit of a schlep up to Marylebone if you want to get a printed poster with your time on it, which is quite nice.
Okay, so any final tips or advice for people doing the London Marathon this year?
London is one of the races where I would probably manually split on your watch. I think the first half of the race is fine on GPS. It's very, it's residential streets. It's nice and open. You'll get the pacing will be pretty much right. You hit Canary Wharf, and then there's lots of tunnels and stuff in the second half of the race. There's high buildings. It's a hard place to, if you are using your watch to pace the race in the marathon, I would take manual splits around Canary Wharf at least. But in general, just to roughly know what you're actually running, because I've had massive accelerations detail, even with modern watches, which are very good. It's a hard rate. If you are looking for that, that pacing strategy, the first half of the race is fine. The second half is carnage around Canary Wharf, and it's just, you just won't be right, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say if it's all possible, if you're coming from out of town, if you're in London in time, go and run the last 5K of the course, the bit where you come out the kind of final tunnel from Embankment. Know what that is. It helps so much to have that banked in your mind, familiar for when you sort of come out there and you're feeling tired, and subconscious knows what's left, and your body will unlock a bit more. It's just nice to know that last bit. I find it's kind of a really good trick to familiarize yourself if you've got time and you can. If you're in your training, maybe you can go and do a bit more. Have one run where you go and run a bit of that last bit of the course.
Shakeout run.
That's a good idea. That tunnel, coming out of that tunnel, it always hits me because that tunnel is so bleak and all the men are going for a wee and it's just a weird place, and then you come out and it's a wall of sound and you're like, where am I? So that is
also
a good tip.
Bright.
I wish I'd done that.
It's so bright on the eyes coming up out of this. It's a little hill up, but it's not a bad hill, that one. And it is pretty nice. It is horrible in that tunnel. It's there's worse things than peeing in there as well.
Oh God, I would also say, I don't know, I'm on the fence, but put your name, if you need, the crowds are incredible at London, aren't they? It's the best day out. Put your name on your top, embrace it, soak it up, like enjoy the crowds, because I don't know, there's a magic, isn't there, in London? And I think just try and enjoy it, because it is the best.
It's the ultimate time to be cheesy and really lean into it, because it is just the best
100%.
atmosphere. And the other thing is, if you don't put your name on your thing and you are from London, it's quite fun because everyone watches London. So obviously put your name in a bit, but if someone shouts your name, look for them, because it will be like someone from your primary school who vaguely recognises you or something like that. Who's that? And it's just really nice. Basically, really helps you tick off the list.
Download your playlist before you get to the start line, because every year I do this and I get there and then for the first 5K I've got no music because I've not downloaded it, and Spotify can't get reception and I'm like buffering in and out and it's chaos. And download everything you need, because you'll have no phone signal from the minute you get there till probably about Tower Bridge. So just download everything you need, podcast, music, whatever.
I'd say on headphones. I don't know if you guys have. I don't use headphones at London generally, but if you've got bone conduction headphones, are they loud enough at London when the crowds are going?
No, but that works quite well, really, because if you're doing a big marathon, the quiet bits you can hear the music, and then the bits where you got the crowd, you hear the crowd. That's sort of what you want anyway. So, but they work quite well for that from that point of view. But you can always hear something.
What are you trying to listen to? Your Alan Partridge audiobook like I do? You're missing key bits.
No, I listen to high octane dance music when I'm when I'm trying. I probably will listen to Alan Partridge when I'm doing London actually this year.
Kieran likes his European dance music, obviously, which is
not
appropriate in London.
I think the other thing, there's going to be lots of people out there who are going to run London who aren't necessarily running for a PB. It might be the only time you ever get into London. If your family are there, it's a special day. If you run past them and you see them, take 10 seconds, 15 seconds to get a photo or go and say and give them a hug. It's kind of, you never know when you might get back to that London Marathon again, because if you've gotten through the ballot, all of that kind of stuff. And it is a special race and a special moment. I think it's definitely worth making those memories and capturing them on the day, if you're not running all out for a PB, that is.
Didn't you run back for your little boy?
I did, yeah. I mean, we were supposed to meet on Embankment, and I couldn't kind of connect with them. We missed, and I was running up and down Embankment. I think I did like an extra sort of mile and a half going up and down. But eventually I found him, and and it was worth it. Everybody hated me, but yeah.
You need very specific instructions as to where your family are in London, because it is hard to spot people if they're like, I just saw one of my kid like on the birdcage walk, even when it's a bit more sparse. Like at the last second, I was scanning the whole crowd and just saw them. So that's it's quite hard to do that the first time. Obviously, you don't really know the course that well, but try and think of somewhere very specific. Well,
I think that'll do us for London Marathon. If you are listening to this or watching this and you're doing London Marathon, good luck. And myself, enjoy. Nick and Mike are all doing it this year. So if you see us, are you wearing your Runchester vest, Nick?
I cannot. I am in the championship race. You have to wear a club. We're not a UK affiliated club, so I've got to wear my club vest.
Right. So ignore Nick then if you see him. But if you see me or Mike, give us a shout and we'll wave back.
I'll take a shout.
You're not part of the team if you're.
I've got a teal headband. Maybe I will wear it for that reason. Yeah.
Well, you can wear your Runchester cap, can't you? I know you've got your new hat to wear.
I could wear my Runchester cap. I'm not sure about what the rules are on branding, actually. Anyway, I probably wouldn't wear my Runchester cap. I don't know. I feel a bit off in the champs tent.
Good luck, listeners, good luck. Viewers,
good luck.
And enjoy it. That's it from us on this London Marathon special. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click that little bell. And if you go into the caption below, you can find a link to the podcast version of this, which is slightly longer, but you could also listen to it on the run as well if you didn't pay attention to the full video. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.